So West to like throw stuff on the floor, so they need floor space.
I'm ahead. Yeah. Ik ben nou eens eigenlijk, hè?
No, it doesn't.
She's just getting all like eights. It's just like last time when I plugged it in, it was just like 8 out of 8. I don't think so. Yep, we're in there. Yep. It says using DHCP. It just says it's not.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're still sorting out some tech issues, so if you please give us a minute. I know everyone's excited to get started, but we're just going to need a couple more minutes. Thanks for your patience.
Look at that. Is it able to?
Ew.
Why are the DNS addresses on your subset? Anything goes, whatever was there can go live. Makes sense. Was that not plugged in? It was plugged in? Nothing is, and it's not coming up right now. What's it back there?
Wow.
These are very convenient, but then nobody can sit there.
No problem.
I just deleted the interface. I tried 2 adapters now. I plugged in and didn't add it as a web app. I think you need to reboot this Mac or something maybe. Is 8 set for wired? Okay.
Meteorólogo. È malo cosa.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for your patience. We're going to get started. We were, of course, working on the laptop a little bit, but we were also concerned that we might finish this meeting too soon, and then you would try to go to dinner, and you couldn't get to dinner, so we needed to kind of stretch it out just a little bit. So good afternoon and welcome. I'm so excited to see everyone here in the room and so many of us that have joined online. Welcome to Madrid. My name is Roman Diniliu. I am chair of the Ietf. I have to say, I think third time is going to be the charm. I'm not sure whether some of you know, we've tried to come to Madrid before. We tried that first summer of COVID. We had to cancel. We had no sense of what a pandemic was like. So we said, no problem. Not this summer. We're just going to come back next summer. Turns out pandemics can continue for a while. So we had to cancel yet again. But third time's the charm. We're here and it's fantastic. So I hope you're having the great meeting that I'm having as well. Of course, this is like a meeting like any other. The note well applies. Please take a second to scan the policies and procedures that apply to everything we do here at the Ietf. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask someone in the leadership for clarity or what these mean in terms of the obligations to you. We're running our standard agenda, which practically means we're going to hear from our host. We're going to get reports from all the different leadership bodies. Then, unfortunately, we've had some passings in the community. We'll cover that. And then lastly, we'll end with an open mic from all the leadership bodies. So as we get started, I just want to remind everyone of the obvious. To pull off a meeting as successfully as we're doing here takes a huge team working together, often many months in advance. So I want to take a second just to recognize the Secretariat, the Meet Echo team, the NOC, the LLC staff, the tools team, and the Hackathon support team that has pulled this together and the successful meeting that we're having. So thank you. But I would be remiss if I wouldn't thank one of the key ways in which this happens, which is through the financial support of the meeting host. So I welcome to the stage for me, Gonzalo, please, if you could say some few words on behalf of Ericsson, who is our meeting host here.
Thank you, Roman. So very briefly, the first person I ever talked to about bringing the meeting to Spain, half joking, half seriously, was Dave Oran. I cannot see you guys, but I know he's around. We're talking, I don't know, 1998, 1999. So, you know, credit to him or blame to him. First time, you know, we discussed bringing the Ietf to Madrid. Fast forward a few years later, I was having dinner with Jordi and more people, and he was complaining that, you know, no sponsor was interested in sponsoring a meeting here. And that's what I said, you know, hold my drink, we're gonna make this happen. That was pretty cool. So as Roman said, then that was 2020 summer. Then COVID came. We moved it to, I think it was November 2021. Anyway, it didn't happen either. So now I'm very happy to welcome you all to Madrid. And then lastly, I want to mention also, and I was thinking of that when Roman was presenting basically the key contributors to this meeting, and is the video support team, Mítico. So I have a problem that nobody pronounces their name correctly. It's not Metecho, it's not Mítico, it's not Mítico, right? I was thinking in English how to explain it. It was like me, tic, o, Mítico, and that means mythical in Italian. So Mítico.
So Gonzalo, should we say it all together?
Sure. Again, Mítico, 1, 2, 3, Mítico. Wow, you guys are great. Welcome to Madrid.
Okay.
So on behalf of the IETF, we'd just like to present a plaque to Ericsson for your continued support of this meeting.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so moving along in the agenda, the next item to talk about is the report from the IETF chair, me, and words from the ISG. Historically, we like to start off with just giving you a sense for who's here, who's in the room, who's outside the room, if for some reason has not joined us for the plenary, and the many people around the world that are remote. We've have a great turnout where we're seeing roughly the same spread. We see 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 on-site, 1/3 remote. The other trend we're continuing to see is that about 1/5, so 20% of all participants here that are at this meeting have never been to this meeting before. So we're actually very excited to have you here and really looking forward to the future contributions you're going to be making to the IETF. And if you've had the benefit of participating in the Sunday training session, we're very keenly interested in what your reaction is, whether you think that's helping you, so we can polish that for the next cadre that's going to take it at the next meeting. The really exciting thing is, wow, what is the turnout for the hackathon? We have record participation in the hackathon and a record number of projects. We typically see projects in 40 something, and it was 63 projects this year. And having that running code and bringing that to the standardization process and the meetings after and the vice and kind of in the back and forth is really one of the ways that's improving the validation we have in the protocols before we ship. And so that means we have more confidence because of that running code in those RFCs that we ultimately publish. On the fee waiver side, which is, I think, something that the community likes reports out on, the trend continues that about half of the remote participants are making use of the fee waiver. So just to repeat to everyone, if you would like to participate remotely in the IETF and you are unable to pay the remote fee, there is a no questions asked remote fee waiver policy that's unlimited. You fill out your information and you're able to participate in the IETF meeting. So please make use of that, and please tell your colleagues to make use of that so we can bring all the voices that we need to the meeting. For the on-site fee waivers, both the IETF and the IRTF used its whole budget. I know Dirk is going to talk a little bit more about his disbursement. And I wanted to put this participation in context, which is this is a record meeting. This is the largest meeting we've had since we reconvened after COVID, which is kind of phenomenal. We have the largest on-site presence here. So Madrid appears to be the winner. So after all that work, like I said, third time's a charm. So thrilled to be here. The other demographics we like to present is participants come here from different sectors. They're here from academia, from civil society. They're policymakers from their respective national or regional governments, in addition to industry and the technical community. But they all come from around the world, and you can see here a sense from where they're coming around the globe. And the bar chart that you see there arbitrarily is enumerating what countries have 10 or more participants participating in this meeting. So the cut line could be 9, it could be 11, but 10 was chosen here for this presentation. Another meeting inside the meeting, of course, is our childcare. We recognize that that a number of participants have obligations for their children or maybe their guardians, and to participate in the meeting, we need to have a program to do that. So this has been an enduring thing that we've been able to find a very gracious host to support, that there's on-site childcare for the duration of the meeting. And I'm told we have a record participation. There's 12, and they were doing something much more fun than we were. They were preparing for the future Olympics. I'm sure there probably is an Olympian or two in that bunch, but I saw the feedback, and they may be Olympians, but they are most definitely the future cadre of the Ietf, because I would point you to the lower left where the comment is, my favorite part of daycare, we'll call it the meeting, is that I made new friends and have cookies. And I swear that could be in the post-meeting survey, and we wouldn't even bat an eye if we literally saw that and be like, yes, that is critical feedback to us. So there's before the meeting starts and in the proceedings, there's a report I send with a lot kind of more details, but I wanted to fly through the wave tops on some of those things that I think are important to reiterate here. The ISG issued a new statement on ISG ballots and documents, and we got a couple of questions like, why are you reissuing this? And so to explain ourselves a little bit is, the ISG typically, when it has a particular procedures to make it transparent to the community, they publish it as a statement. For reasons lost in history, the balloting procedures for the ISG were on the website. They were just honestly some random page, and as far as we can tell, it hadn't been updated since 2014, originally made in 2008, and it was mostly right, but it didn't reflect the reality of exactly how things were being done in the balloting process. So your ISG wanted to, clarify what is this kind of the state of the practice, and to do the change control associated with a statement that is not the more loosey-goosey change control that we have on a random page on the website. So that was the thing reissued there. And in the coming, well, let's be honest, it's August, so probably in the coming month or two, closer to probably September than August, your ISG has been looking through the history of statements, and there's honestly a lot of them, and it's clear many of them don't apply. Some of them have been deprecated, new things have been reissued. So a bit of the data tracker is being retooled to do everything we do with documents in the data tracker, so you can track history, do diffs on previous versions, create relationships between this was the last one, this one's been deprecated, this is the new one. So if you actually want to see what are the active statements the ISG has made, it's a much shorter list, and many of them are being archived, because in the deeper history, before there was a dynamic website, before there were blogs, that's the place where you just put something out. And so there's all sorts of just announcements that are from a decade, sometimes multiple decades in the past, that are really no longer relevant and are better served in an archive. The other thing I want to call out is the data call. Anytime we recharter a working group, your ISG reconsiders whether the chairing team is right, or when we spin up a new working group, chairing decisions need to be made. And understanding who is the pool they can pull from is kind of an important considerations. And across the different areas, there's different approaches. There's calls to area-specific mailing lists. Maybe it happens in area-specific meetings, or there's a reliance on directly approaching the AD to signal, I'm interested in being a working group. Patterning after what's done for the NomCom, we've modified the registration system. Hopefully you saw it in the registration and checked that you'd be willing to. There's now a way to signal through the registration process that you are interested in being considered for a future leadership position as a working group chair. And after each meeting, well, this will be the first time, but after this meeting and continuing in the future, that's going to be dumped and brought to the ISG, and they're going to have that in their back pocket as they try to fill various leadership positions. To report out, we had 2 appeals since we last got together in 122. The first appeal has already been processed by the ISG and a response has been served. The other one is still pending a response. On the right, I wanted to contextualize a little bit, because you've probably heard me talk about appeals a little more than maybe you've heard in the historic past between the last couple meetings. So on the right there, you can see a time series of how many appeals we've seen over the last decade. And if you're looking at it, you should note that we are a little over halfway through the year of 2025, and we are already at the high water mark of the last decade of how many appeals we've seen. You'll also note that's the black bar You'll also note in the blue bar is an observation that we've seen the highest ever number of things appeal to the ISG, and then the response of the ISG being further appeal to the IAB. And Tommy will mention a little bit more about the new workload that the IAB has on those appeals coming in. If you've seen any of my plenaries, you know that there's always a couple charts measuring something based on community questions I've gotten. The historical ones on document processing, I've merged those into the chair report. I'm not going to kind of go over them. One of the questions I got in recent months was in reaction to announcements of working groups closing. And I think in that context, it was about observing a bunch of working group closures. And the question was, is the Ietf shrinking? There's a lot of different ways to kind of measure that. So what you see here is a little bit of context on how big the Ietf has been going back 7 years as measured by count of working groups. So the way to kind of roughly read that is the Ietf in the last 7 years have been roughly consistent in size measured by working group count. The spreads typically, it's about low 130 kind of working groups. The low water mark was a little bit before COVID, which was 128. The high water mark was early on in COVID at 138, and we're roughly standing at 130. The other thing to observe is the birth and death rate of kind of working groups. So opening them or sunsetting them might be the more appropriate language. We're seeing a dynamic pattern. It's not a static number of 130 working groups. We're closing them, we're opening them, and so new work is absolutely coming into the Ietf. Given that I have a very broad kind of audience here, I wanted to make a couple of comments about what's happening in the general area because it affects literally each and every one of you, because by definition, the gen area is about everything that happens in the Ietf, not a specific area. There's been a tremendous appetite to revisit how different structural processes of the Ietf work. And as a result, we have a number of working groups in flight in different levels of maturity that are considering first what our moderation procedures are, which is Mod Pod, how we're writing IANA considerations, one of 3 required sections of an RFC other than an abstract, and security considerations. And then on Friday will be the first time we ever meet for ProCon, which is working on initially some editorial things related to the defined working group procedures and the standards process as defined by RFC 2026. I highlight that here because historically, a lot of energy goes into the technical working groups, and the energy level in some of the process working groups, it's a much smaller cadre. I really want to emphasize all of these affect you and how you do things in the technical working groups. So please join the discussion. Please join the review on these particular topics. The other thing I wanted to highlight on this slide is that the ISG has been observing an attendance pattern. It's actually kind of quite exciting, which is we have the high fidelity Meet Echo kind of support, but what we're seeing is people come up remote, and I know Gonzalo wants to strangle me. I mispronounced it again. I see you. What we have observed is remote participants are joining, and the obvious pattern occurs, which it's an individual sitting in front of a console. But what we're also seeing is clusters of participants sharing a computer or sharing a conference room. So Matt, you're in a cube, you're sharing the laptop, or you're awkwardly in a conference room, and how do you do the audio setup? How do you join with by yourself, given that the audio feed is coming kind of from another laptop? And we recognize this is a great way to include new communities or clusters of communities in the work we're doing. And so we have an active feature request to explore what would be this idea of, we have the notion of the official plenary room joining. We also have the notion of a remote participant as an individual joining. And what we're exploring is what's the technology assist we can do to have a remote room join with different participants in that room, and they can speak with their own voice out of that remote room. So there's kind of a lot to kind of explore here. I'll probably have a lot more to report out by the time we get to Montreal as we kind of spec what that looks like. And if you have kind of input on that, please don't hesitate to provide it to the ISG. As I kind of close, I want to make a couple of acknowledgments. So I hopefully this is not new to anyone in the Ietf. We have an anti-harassment policy, and its focus is on creating and maintaining an environment where people can participate from different backgrounds with decency and respect. The primary way in which we implement that is through a team that we call the Ombuds team. These are the designated individuals that you can turn to both in person or remote to help handle claims of potential harassment. And really what I'd like to acknowledge here is Pete Resnick, who has been one of the longest serving members of the Ombuds team. He has been there for 9 years. So from almost the very beginning of when we had an Ombuds team, he has supported the Ombuds process remotely in between meetings, which is a resource to the community, but he has also sometimes been even the solo representative of the Ombuds team on site. So if you have an issue that's coming up during meeting week, you can turn to him as a resource. So Pete, if you could come up, we have a plaque to recognize your service. Thank you for making this an environment that we can get our work done, and we are able to work collaboratively across diverse environments, and you as being on the Ombuds team has been a critical part of that. So thank you. Let's recognize Pete one more time. Thank you for your service, Pete. While Pete is stepping down, we have a robust team whose service we also kind of want to recognize. There remain 5 individuals on the Ombuds team, and in particular, I wanted to recognize David Skenazy, who is the newest joining member of the Ombuds team. David, I can literally see nothing because the lights are flashing in my eyes, but thank you for your service. To call out, there's 2 names there in red. So David and Sophie, they are both here on site. So if you want to speak to the Ombuds team, you can find them. And of course, Allison, Avery, and Siobhan are standing by remotely. If you need to reach them, please use the Ombuds team alias. And before I get off on stage, I wanted to have another recognition, which is your ISG is working, during the meetings and around the year to execute the standards process. That does not happen by accident. That does not happen without significant financial support from their employers. So I just wanted to take a moment to highlight these are all the employers that are supporting your ISG to make sure they can support you each and every day to execute the standards process and get our RFCs published. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Tommy to tell us about the IAB.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Roman. All right, so I'm Tommy Pauly. I'm the chair of the IAB, the Internet Architecture Board. You'll see the rest of us up here later for the open mic. But first, we have a couple things we want to highlight. We sent out a report from the IAB at the end of last week before this week, and I just wanted to cover some of the things in there. You can also find the full report in your email and at iab.org. Recently, the IAB members participated both in a session at the IGF, the Internet Governance Forum, as well as participating in the WSIS plus 20 high-level meeting. These are events around internet governance that are very important. This is a year where a lot is going on in the discussions around internet governance, and we were really happy to see the participation of the technical community supporting the multi-stakeholder model. And so we have a great blog on that, and there are videos you can watch. I recommend that everyone go and check that out. We also have 2 upcoming workshops that we're going to be holding at the end of this year. I'll have details on the next slide. And as Roman mentioned earlier, we have had several appeals come through from handling the ISG appeals coming to the IAB, and you can see all of the information about those appeals and the IAB's response to those appeals in the links that are from these slides and also in the report. In general, if you have questions or feedback to the IAB, you can reach us at iab@iab.org, or you can email the IAB chair directly. Going on to those workshops, I just wanted to highlight these because they have some paper submission deadlines that are coming up soon before the next time we'll all meet here as a plenary. So if you're interested in these topics, we really ask that you do contribute here. The first one is a joint workshop between the IAB and the W3C, looking at age-based restrictions on content access. This is going to be an in-person workshop held in London during early October. And if you're interested in this, please submit papers by August 8th. We're also going to be holding a virtual workshop at the end of the year talking about IP geolocation. That's going to be, again, December 1st through 5th, sometime in that week, virtually, and you can submit your papers by October 3rd. So if you're interested in that, please do send things in. And that is all from the IAB. So next I'm going to hand it over to Dirk to take us through what's going on in the IRTF.
Hello, I'm Dirk Kutscher. I'm the chair of the Internet Research Task Force, and we have 15 very active research groups at the moment, and they have all been meeting, or they're all meeting this week. So I guess this also speaks to Madrid and how popular it is. So yeah, please find them on the agenda. So we still have few very interesting sessions coming up tomorrow and on Friday. We are also constantly trying to speak to the community, trying to figure out what are important, relevant topics that the IRTF should address. And so this week, in particular, we have 2 side meetings. So one on discussing like systems research for space communication or space systems. So there will be a side meeting tomorrow. Please check it out if you're interested. And yesterday we had a meeting on internet working challenges for AI. So this is so one of the many side meetings on that topic that you have probably seen, but this is particularly focused on finding out so what are the research challenges in internet working that could benefit from continuous research in this group, and what would be the benefits also for the larger IETF community. So that was on Tuesday. We are also doing active outreach to the academic community now. So on that topic on networking for AI, we are holding a workshop at the ACM Connext conference in December in Hong Kong. So you can still submit papers. Please find it on the Connext workshop, Connext webpage. And then, so we have the Applied Networking Research Workshop and the Research Prize. So these are like 2 tools that we use to raise the profile of the IETF, to support high quality research, and also to bring the next generation of participants to this community. And so ANRW, the workshop, is kindly sponsored by SICOM, the IETF, and Akamai. Thanks very much. Had a full day workshop on Tuesday with a really excellent program. And I'd like to thank the workshop chairs, Anna Brunstrom and Ryan Beckett, for doing an excellent job in putting this together. Thanks very much. And so the Applied Networking Research Prize, ANRP, is kindly supported by ISOC, Comcast, and NBC Universal. So with that, we are trying to kind of recognize the best contribution in applied networking research every year. And then we are inviting the prize winners to our meetings to give talks. So these are always selected papers that have been published in the past, and we have a committee selecting those. And so the ANRP award talks will take place tomorrow at IRTF Open. And I'm very glad that I have Harika Manda here, and she will recognize for her work on analyzing internet access inequality, and Henrik Sech, he will recognize for his work on Starlink performance measurements. So that takes place tomorrow in IRTF Open. And also at IRTF Open tomorrow, we are very happy to have an invited speaker, Herman de Meer, from Passau in Germany. So he will talk on the dependency of power systems and information and networking technologies. And finally, I'd like to remind you that we are offering a travel grant. So that's the Ietf Diversity Travel Grant program, kindly sponsored and supported by Ethnic, Akamai, Comcast, and Netflix. And so this helps us to bring people from different communities with different backgrounds to our meetings, and also, help with the diversity of the Ietf and IRTF. So for the applications for Montreal are already open. So deadline is coming up fairly soon. It's August 1st. So if you know somebody or if you're interested, please do apply. Thank you very much.
Come on up, Benno, for the NomCom report.
So, hello. So, this year's NomCom. So, last year I was a volunteer and a voting NomCom member, and I really learned a lot about it. And I was already participating in the Ietf for 17 years, but still I was in my own DNS, a little bit routing bubble, but doing my volunteer work as a voting NomCom member, I learned really a lot about the Ietf and how it works and about leadership. So this is actually a call for next year. Consider when you register for the next Ietf, consider to push the button, check the box to volunteer for the NomCom. The larger the group, the more diverse, the better for the NomCom process. Good. There we are. Yes, what's the NomCom charter to do? It's important. It's important what we do, the NomCom. It selects or proposes the next set of candidates for leadership positions, open leadership positions. And we do that in a transparent way. And we evaluate nominees from that nominate themselves or nominated by other people based on their qualifications, experience, and also by the job description. They are the job descriptions by the leadership bodies, and we evaluate with interviews, with feedback from the community, and propose a slate of candidates to the confirming bodies. So it's important in selecting for periods of 3 to 2 years for the next term. So, right, who's the NomCom? Oh, sorry, one slide back. So the open Ietf, which positions are open for the next period? So it's one position for the LLC board, for the trust also one position, the IAB for 2 years, 6 positions open, and the ISG 7 positions for 2 years. This year is also the Ietf chair, so the general AD is open, and the other areas: application, real-time, internet, operations and management, routing, security, and web and interface transport. Web and internet transport. They're all one position open for selection. Good. Having said that, the NomCom. So the NomCom, we started actually this week. On Tuesday morning, we started. We had a kickoff meeting later on. So we have the voting members. These are the 10 voting members that decide on proposing a candidate to the confirming body. And we have the non-voting members. These are the liaisons from the leadership bodies, myself as chair, and Dejan as the past chair, as advisor. So I'm very happy with this group of people. It's a nice mixture of experienced IETFers and a number of people that are, well, started recently in the IETF, contributing, writing drafts, etc. So I think we have a nice composition of experience and people that are relatively new to the IETF. I'm very happy with that. I was even challenged to say that it will be a smooth sail and uncontroversial proposals, but we have to see. Don't challenge me, sorry. Good. where are we now? Timeline. So the NOMCOM is seated. Between now and the next ITF, there will be call for nominations. And we'll start that with the 1st of August. We're collecting job descriptions for the positions. Probably the last, there's some extra work here. So I expect to have the job descriptions in the wiki, the NOMCOM online, the Monday after 1st of August, so Monday, Tuesday that week. But we want to have, sorry, it should be a nominate slate. I made a typo here. So a slate of nominees finalized by 11th of October. And we also collect feedback, of course. And that's very important. Your feedback is very important to the whole process. So we're collecting feedback via the form on the website, or you can drop by. We have a NOMCOM office. Anytime you can drop by to the NOMCOM office to share your feedback, perspective on the positions, etc., what you think is important for that AD position or for the IB positions. So I will repeat that often on mailing lists, maybe in the rooms, wherever I am. Feedback is very important for the whole process. Interviews will start, the virtual interviews will start the 20th of October and continue until the ITF in Montreal. In person, of course, during Montreal. So that's also kind of call to all of you. If you consider to nominate yourself, it would be really helpful to also to be in person at the Montreal meeting for the interviews. But at all times, we can accommodate for virtual meetings and do the interview remotely. At the end of the week in Montreal, we will have the deliberations on Friday. Last year, we were successful in doing almost 75–80% of all the work. It was really good to do that within the week when we're in one room. I already heard from some of my NOMCOM members the next day, that night they have to fly from Montreal to Japan. So thank you for your dedication and your work for the NOMCOM. And it's a lot of work also for the NOMCOM members, but I'm very happy with them. And at the ITF in Shenzhen, 125, the new positions will be filled. So a more detailed timeline is on the website, the data tracker. That's about it. Before I leave, I want to mention two things. There's a NOMCOM office between 8 and 9. It's open for everyone. It's actually the whole day open to drop by. If the door is open, please come by, share some information, ask questions. It's very easy to find at the reception or the registration desk. Go down the stairs and you'll run into the NOMCOM room. Some of people already found it and got some interesting questions and suggestions and tips. That and the other thing I want to mention, there's tomorrow during the break, if I'm correct, the Ask Me Anything from the area directors. It's during the morning coffee break from 11:30 to 12 in Aglaria, the ISG office. And everyone who considers to nominate him or herself, take the opportunity to ask questions to the ADs. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Benno. Glenn, come on up. And while Glenn is coming up, I'll reiterate in the Ask Me Anything on behalf of the ISG. We are all happy to demystify what that role is, what it is to be an AD. Please do join the Ask Me Anything, or please schedule a time to talk to any or all of us about what the role is about.
Hi, everybody. I'm Glenn Dean. I'm the chair of the IETF Trust, also known as the Intellectual Property Management Corporation. And this is our, we give a report. We're required to give a report annually. We tend to give them every plenary. So we do it twice as much or 3 times as much as we actually have to. That's dedication. There are 5 trustees. What do trustees do? We manage the intellectual property, copyrights, and trademarks on the behalf of the IETF and on behalf of the IANA. And these are your 5 trustees. They're volunteers. And I'm going to talk a little bit also how you can be a volunteer. If I can get the clicker to go. There we go. We also report on licenses we've issued. The ITF's regular licensing model for the IP around RFCs and that kind of stuff is a very passive model in that if you're going to use it for developing other RFCs, you're already covered. You don't need to negotiate a separate license. If you wanted to do something special, like publishing a book or do other things and make other modifications that maybe would need a special license, this is what this report is. We have received 0 special license requests since we last met. We've also issued 0 new special licenses since we last met. This is by design, by the way. It should be easy. We've had 0 new trademark license requests, and we've taken 0 legal actions against any infringements. One of the things we've been doing and we've been reporting on is we are restructuring. The reason we used to be called the Ietf Trust is that we were a trust. We were a trust in Virginia. We have been restructuring as a legal entity to a Delaware corporation. And if you want to learn more about that, go to the Ietf Trust website and read about restructuring. We have a lot of slides there explaining why we did it. But we're also nearing the end of it. And some of the final steps we're doing right now is we are publishing a draft of the replacement of the ITF's RFC 5378, which is the rules for when you're submitting stuff into the ITF, what rights you grant the ITF and the participants here, and how it's managed. And that has been submitted. It's going to be run through the general process for the review, and Roman is going to let us know how he's going to manage that. And there's a companion document called the TLP, and this is the outbound licensing rules that the IETF Trust and now the IPMC will grant for people using the assets that are held by the Trust and the IPMC. And that is, we're going to call it TLP 6. When it's available today, you can go look at it. But we haven't opened the review period, so you can make comments, but there's going to be a formal comment period of 30 days. That's how we have to do it. And that'll be kicked off, and we'll be gathering that through comments to the TLP interest list. And the main thing there that you're going to really pay attention to is the boilerplate that goes on top of all of our documents. It changes to say, instead of saying IETF Trust, it's going to say Copyright Intellectual Property Management Corporation. And then finally, when these are all done, we're going to have a cutover window. We're currently working to a target date of December 31st, 2025, which means that on January 1st, 2026, the new boilerplate saying the new words will go into effect for all new drafts and all new published RFCs. I want to take a minute to follow up on the nom-com stuff, because we're all very aware of how the ISG is selected, how the IAB is selected, and even the LLC, but sometimes people are going to go, what's the trust and how do I become a trustee and how did you get to be a trustee? And the answer is, we're appointed. We're appointed 3 of us through the nom-com process, and those are 3-year term appointments, and they're set up so that each year one of us gets reappointed. In fact, this year is me, and I've been on the trust for a number of years, and I've decided I'm not going to renew, so there's an opening coming up. One of us is appointed by the ISOC Board of Trustees, and one of us is appointed by the ISG. The ISG is a 2-year term, and ISOC, I think, is a 2-year term. It's whatever cycle they want to run on. What do? You actually manage the IP. You don't have to be a lawyer, but what you do is you serve as a trustee to make sure the process is working. We have lawyers we can call upon to ask questions of, and we make sure that overall the assets held by the IETF Trust and in the future the IPMC are protected and well managed, and that they continue to be available for both the IETF to do its work and for the broader internet to build product and protocols and deployments on the work of the IETF. And of course, we also protect the IANA IP, that's trademarks and domain names for the IANA function. We don't give legal advice, by the way. We're not lawyers for the IETF. If you ask us about, who owns this document and stuff like that, we can answer that, but we don't give you legal advice. So if you want that, go pay somebody on the internet, or there's always Reddit, I guess. What makes a great candidate? You don't have to be a lawyer, as I said. So everybody in this room would be a great candidate, even if you are a lawyer. We'll take those too. We've got a couple on there, but you don't have to be. In fact, most trustees have not been lawyers historically. What is really valuable, though, is have a familiarity with how the IETF ID process works and how RFCs work. So if you are a working group chair or you're involved in writing them or have you done that, you've already got a lot of skills you need to be a trustee. So consider throwing your name into the hat. And mostly, you have to be really committed to making the IETF a success. And the fact you all are here, you already qualify, I'm sure. I wanted to point out some of the past trustees we've had, right? We've been around since 2005. There's some pretty cool and distinguished names on this list. I mean, look at, Kurt. He went from a trustee to CEO of ICANN. I mean, hey. So, what are the opportunities this year? Well, my role is available through NOMCOM. So it's one of the openings that this year's NOMCOM is going to be selecting. And I'm the liaison from the trust to the NOMCOM to help them do that. There's also, because it's a 2-year cycle, there is another call that will come out later from the ISG. They have an appointment up this year. I don't know if the Kristen, who is the appointee from the ISG, is going to renew. But even if somebody renews, we encourage people to apply because the appointing body should have a good slate of people to choose from. Nobody gets these jobs, just rolled over. So please, if you think you're interested, throw your hat in the ring for either one or for both of these appointments. If you want to learn more about the trust, or you have a question for us, or you want to learn how do I be a trustee and what do you really do, we have office hours tomorrow. So tomorrow from 12 to 1 over in Segovia, you can come and meet a trustee, hang out. We don't get a lot of traffic because, I don't know, IP issues aren't fun to some people. Please come visit us. We get kind of lonely sitting in a room by ourselves for an hour. So we're friendly. We'll talk to you about IP. We'll talk to you about other IP things. We do both. We're engineers. So we can do IP or IP. And I want to point out we have a trustee website right there. And we have another one that's being stood up for the new entity, itf-ipm.org. Is also, if you go there, it's really primitive. But I just want to let you know it's coming. And that's our email list, trustees@itf.org. Thank you.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, I am Jay Daly, the Ietf Executive Director. Oh. And apparently the only person who dresses summer up here, but great. And if I had it my way, we would only ever meet somewhere this hot, I'll tell you that. So we will start off by thanking Ericsson, who are the global host, the host for this meeting. Without them, it would not be possible. Without Gonzalo's dedication to make this happen, and without Gonzalo's dedication to holding a meeting in New Zealand as well, we would never, end up there. So thank you very much, Gonzalo, for everything. Thank you. We have a number of sponsors for diversity and inclusion who have stuck with us as the world is changing around us. Akamai and Huawei, thank you very much for that. And Ericsson as the Running Code Gold sponsor as well. The Gold sponsors, as well as the global hosts, make a significant contribution to support the IETF. And so thank you very much for your ongoing support of us. Within our values-based sponsorship, we also have sustainability and open internet. So looking together here at our bronze sponsors, under diversity and inclusion, we have Comcast and ICANN. Under running code, we have ICANN and CNNIC. Sustainability, we have NTT. And under open internet, we have DENIC and Nominet. Once again, thank you all very much for your support. And it's been mentioned before, we also have a local supporter, Geordie Pallett. Some of you may have come across him just a little bit, throughout this meeting. He's been, very much in the background. But thank you very much, Geordie, for all of your support.
Yeah, not too much for Geordie. Thank you. Right. So we also want to thank the Ietf 123 equipment, services and connectivity sponsors. These are people who give to us very generously. At this meeting, we are using both the new Cisco equipment and the old Cisco equipment. The donation that Cisco gives us, I think, is valued over at $1 million US. It's really quite incredible. And these, the other organizations here give us a number of things, and particularly here to mention Colt and Hispanics, who have provided the connectivity for this meeting. Thank you all very much. And our most recent global host, who signed up recently for a multi-year commitment, is VeriSign, and they have a large delegation here, including their CTO. So thank you very much, VeriSign, for joining the family. And we continue our success of fantastic designs, our run of fantastic designs now that sell out very quickly. So, of course, you can buy them on our store. We do worldwide delivery. So please go ahead. And as my usual pitch, if you want this on anything else, you know, a wrap to go around your Lamborghini, for example, just let us know and we'll make that happen. Thank you. So, Roman's always mentioned that we have a number of people behind the scenes doing things. So these are our two main sets of volunteers that work here. We have the people who contribute to the code sprint on Saturdays, writing and going through on Data Tracker, fixing various issues that are listed there and providing new features. And then we have the members of the Network Operations Center, the NOC, who are supported by their employers to come and to donate their time to the IETF meetings. So thank you all very much. And then putting some names to the faces behind the teams in the Secretariat. We have a number of people here in Meetico, which I probably the first time I've ever said that correctly. Thank you. We have a number of people there who are apparently very good cooks as well. And then in the NOC, we have a number of people, some of whom are not such good cooks, but there we are. So thank you all very much. So this is the IETF LLC team, almost all of whom are developers, and a few of us who do something else. And then we have a new photograph. This is the RFC Production Center. I haven't listed all the names here, but these are the people who, once IDs are ready for publication, they're sent through to them. These are the professional editing team that turn your work into the polished series of RFCs. Thank you all very much. And we've added a little picture of simplifying the Secretariat here as well. So you can see the three leads within the Secretariat responsible for 3 different bits and the whole team here. They've changed the color of tops they wear from some very fetching turquoise to green, but you'll see them all around wearing the badges. So thank you all very much. And now, as I mentioned before, the global hosts are the ones who help support us very much. They make a multi-year commitment and they spend a fortune supporting one of these meetings. And we are really, we're a technical and engineering organization. We're not a marketing organization. Supporting a meeting doesn't buy them a big booth, doesn't buy them any marketing or anything like that. They do this because they believe in the IETF and want to support the IETF. So thank you all very much to our global hosts. IETF 124 Montreal is coming up. Registration is open for that, so please get in and register under the super early. That will be hosted by Comcast and NBC Universal, and I very much hope to see you all there. So these are our future meeting locations and venues as booked so far. Montreal, I mentioned. Then we have Shenzhen in China, which will be at the Fujian Shangri-La, and that will be hosted by CN Nick. Then we have IETF 126 in Vienna. That will be the Hilton Vienna Park, which is the same venue that we went to immediately when we came out of COVID. We're still looking for a host for there, so anybody interested, please let us know. Ietf 127 San Francisco, Hilton Union Square, still looking for a host there as well, so please let us know. And then for the next 3, we have Asia, Europe, North America, but just to give you advance notice, we are potentially considering swapping Asia and North America because of the availability of venues for that year. It is entirely allowed within the policy for us to have that flexibility, and it could certainly make things easier for some of the bookings that we want. We've only recently switched to Asia in March, because it was believed that it would make things easier for us to book in March, and it hasn't quite worked out as well as we would have hoped. And as we know, going to Montreal in November is going to be just a little bit chilly. Okay, so we will keep you updated on those as we go through. So thank you very much for turning up on those, and I shall hand over to Miriam.
Thank you. I'm Miriam Kühne. I'm the chair of the LLC board, and we have a picture here of the other board members. I'm used to the clicker where the big button on the top, you know, it's like at the right meetings, you always get just the big button. It's different here. Anyway, we have the following board members. Not all of them are here. We've got Gonzalo here, Roman is here, and me, I'm the chair, and George, Michaelson, and Shauna unfortunately could not be here. They're also not here remotely because of time zone issues mostly, so they sent their apologies. Shauna is our treasurer, by the way, and George is going to be the liaison for the NOMCOM, as I think Benno had mentioned already. We have regular board meetings. Usually once a month. We're going to skip August because some of us are going to be on holidays, and then we won't have a quorum. But the other, the next one is in September. All the dates are online on the website, and there's actually a section of the board meetings that are open for observers, and we usually have a couple of observers. It's interesting to hear questions from the community, and so if you have any issues or any questions, or you just want to listen in, see what we're discussing, please feel free to join. We're also striving to get the minutes and the resolutions and the decisions up on the website soon after the meetings. This is our so the usual finance slides. We actually added a bit more details here for transparency, so you can look at the numbers online. I just want to point out a few things here that we've actually gained a bit through our investments, which is great, and also the contributions from ISOC are reflected there, and some increased, you can see some increased revenues there through the matching funds from ISOC due to some contributions to the endowment. And I would like to thank actually everybody who's contributing to the endowment fund recently, but also in the past, of course, because that also ensures our long-term financial stability for the IETF. So what's the board, and together with the staff and with Jay mostly doing? Obviously, we're always focusing on fundraising. We're also looking at our fundraising and investment strategies right now as the board. We've done with the second ISR to review the results, or the report is online. We had a retreat in May in Amsterdam, and there's a blog that we published, and we also had a short official board meeting during that retreat, which is also, the minutes are published. We're looking at the input for the NOMCOM, make sure they have all the necessary information that they need to, appoint the next candidates. And we've also looked at reviewing there's a draft out on reviewing the IETF network requirements and operations, and that's one of the outcomes of the IASA 2 review. So there's an open draft currently out there. And also the contract for the secretariat kind of expires at the end of this year, and we're looking at possibly retendering that after extending the contract for 2 times. So that might be the next thing coming up. And last but not least, a few ways you can reach us, or you can provide feedback to us. That regular feedback, or the general feedback that goes to both the board and Jay and the executive director, is llcfeedback@ietf.org. There's also a public list for anything administrative, that the LLC deals with or that's relevant for the IETF in general. You can reach the executive director directly with an email address there. And also, I think Jay already mentioned that if you're interested in sponsoring or hosting a meeting, you can reach us at sponsorship@ietf.org. And then there's a whole list of pages that you can find where you can find more information, including the financial statements and the policies and the meetings and the minutes. And I think that's it from me. Thank you.
So since we last met at IETF 122, we've had really somber news. We've had the passing of two luminaries in our community, and we wanted to take a minute here during the plenary when we're all here to recognize their real contribution to us here in the IETF. So I invite Jason to come up to speak of David.
All right, thank you. So not everybody may know Dave Tatt. He was around the IETF bit many years ago. He started really getting involved in buffer bloat with Jim Geddes for a long time. And he was integral in really getting a lot of the technical community to understand what buffer bloat was and to recognize that along with others that he collaborated with, that there wasn't a trade-off that you could have either high bandwidth or low delay. And he used to like to say bandwidth is a lie, which was always, funny. And he's done a lot of things over the years. He's, brought together a lot of people that contributed to open source to do things related to CODL and FQCODL and SFQCODL and so on. Yep, sorry, there's Dave. And that ended up getting picked up by lots of downstream projects. And the result of those sorts of AQMs was that many people suddenly had better internet, access, internet performance. And, he had a real gift for identifying those things. And on a personal level, he was a very interesting guy. He was obviously a little bit offbeat in a really fun way, and also a contrarian in a really interesting way, in a way that helped provoke technical discussion and debate and questioning of assumptions. And he had a real skill for that, and doing it in a way that didn't turn people off, but got them to listen, got them interested and engaged. And he was a funny guy. In fact, I remember one of the first few times I talked to him, he was telling me about the experiments he was running on this wireless network that he was running at a campground in California that was sort of like a clothing optional campground. And, he thought that would shock me in some way. And I was like, whatever, dude, tell me about the network. So it's, he's an interesting guy, and he's done a lot of things. Even most recently, he's been involved in starting an organization, a company called LibreQuaz, that was trying to productize this, put it in open source. They've had a bunch of deployments around the world, and that organization continues. At least, one person is here from that org. And so Dave touched a lot of people and did a lot of things that are sort of behind the scenes. There's not a lot of glamour in a lot of those things, but all of the actions that he took, and I knew Dave since probably 2010, so quite a while, made a real difference. He was just a really kind-hearted guy, a really gentle soul that had a lot of fun, and was really smart and really good at bringing people together, writing code and getting it deployed in really savvy ways so that it would just sort of naturally get picked up by projects over time. So you may not have known Dave directly, but probably a lot of the things that he's worked on over the years have had an effect on the projects that people here have been involved in, and deployments like our deployment at Comcast, he had a direct influence on over the years. So he's played a big role in helping the world focus on reducing buffer bloat, reducing latency, improving network responsiveness, and he'll be missed. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And I invite to the stage Harold to say a few words about Fred Baker.
I'm afraid I cannot match the eloquence of Jason. But it's been a long time since I first met Fred. Almost 30 years. I still remember that meeting in a sofa at a hotel in San Francisco. And that feeling of this person is solid. This person is grounded. This is someone who believes in the internet. He was IETF chair for 5 years, the longest term anyone's ever served as IETF chair, I think. And I had the honor to succeed him. And for all the years following, he was around, working for the internet in various roles. I did not find any reason to change my initial impression. Fred was solid. Fred was grounded, and Fred had a heart for the internet. You know, when I worked on the Ietf mission statement, my original version was the Ietf exists to make the internet work. And Fred came over and said, you know, I think we can do better. So the mission statement of the Ietf is, the Ietf exists to make the internet work better. And I would say, thank you, Fred, for making the internet work better.
Thank you for those words, Harold. So in recognition of Dave, in recognition of kind of the passing of these significant contributors to the IETF, we're going to take a moment of silence. Okay. So now we pivot in our agenda to the different open mics for the different leadership bodies. So I invite to the stage all members of the Internet Architecture Board.
It is bright, isn't it?
So for just everyone's awareness, as you're coming up, as we start doing the open mics, you will see a little dazed and confusion from anyone standing at the podium. We literally cannot see, given how bright the lights are, who's standing at the mic. So we are going to be staring at the queue, and we will be panning because we're not sure what mic we'll be speaking from.
All right, very good. Hello again. I am again Tommy Pauly, the IAB chair, and this is our IAB open mic session. And before we go into hearing any questions or comments you may have, we will introduce everyone. How about we start down at that end?
Sure, I'm Alvaro Rodana.
Colin Jennings, way less cool sounding than Alvaro.
Jana Yengar, not so cool sounding.
Is this a contest? Mia Kulevind.
Matthew Bocci.
Dirk Kutscher. Suresh Krishnan.
Tommy Pauly.
Roman Dinelio.
Mark Nottingham.
Dhruv Todi,
Warren Kamari,
Jason Livingood, Qian Wu.
All right. This is your IAB, and we are open for questions. Eric.
So, Eric Ving, not really to the IAB, but for one specific member of the IAB, which also happens to be the NOC guy in this board, and it's the only place when I can talk to the NOC. So sorry, Warren, to put you on the spot. Can you say a few words about the IPv6 mostly experience here? You know me, right? So it was.
I'm shocked to discover you're asking about V6. I actually have some stats. So yeah, this is the first time that we've done IPv6 mostly on the main Ietf SSID. So if you've been on the Ietf SSID, you're using IPv6 mostly. It turns out about 94% of people have been on the IPv6 mostly Ietf SSID. I think the majority of people actually had no idea that they were, because everything mostly just works. Of the 94% of people who are on IPv6 mostly, it looks like around 75% of people only got an IPv6 address. So this means they're running like macOS or iOS or Android or some Linuxes. We've had very few complaints. We discovered about 3 bugs in operating systems, which have been mentioned and are going to get bug fixed. And as far as we see, most things are just working. There is one change which we're planning on making for the next meeting, which will make the NAT traversal sticky, which will fix some videos for some people in the Netherlands, apparently, at least one user. And hey, we love you all. So yeah, generally it's been a great success. Everything just seems to work.
Thank you. And thank you for the full NOC.
And next we have Jen having another question for the IPv6 architecture board.
Yes, I have a Angelinkova. Yeah, Eric stole my question, but I'd like to thank you, the NOC and Warren. And I also would like to say that people who experienced the issue and did not report them, I think, losing all rights to complain about specific protocol not working. So thank you again.
So I'd actually just like to thank Eric and Jen for pushing on this, so we actually did it. And also everybody else actually designed the IPv6 mostly stuff and the IPv6 transition stuff and that. We just turned some knobs. The Ietf actually designed this and made it work.
You are welcome.
Universal deployment. All right. Anything else? All right. Going once. Going twice. All right. Thank you very much. We will see you next time. Next, we'll welcome up the IESG. If you give me your jacket.
Oh, okay. It's the jacket that we should take, as long as the jacket. Where's the cue?
It goes over on the right. It pops in.
Oh, it pops in. Yeah.
Right up.
There's space on this side. Okay, so this is your seated ISG. We're going to start with Mike. If you could please start the introductions.
Sure. Mike Bishop, Wood AD.
Mohamed Kader, Obsedi.
Mahesh Randani, Obsedi.
Eric Vaak, Intedi.
Eric Klein, the other Eric, Intedi. Ori Steele, RAD.
Roman Danilio, Gen AD.
Tommy Polly, IAB Chair.
Paul Wouters, Sec AD.
Deb Cooley, Sec AD.
Ketan Talaulikar, Routing AD. Gunther van der Velde, Routing AD. Corey Fairhurst, WIT AD.
Jim Guichard, and because I'm back in Europe, I'm a routing AD.
Andy Newton, Art AD.
Okay, thank you. So let's begin kind of questions. Hugh, please. And
Hello,
thank you
I'm
for
a-
being at the one mic I can see.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Right. I hate to turn this into a shtick, but I once again have a question about the US. So, sorry. I recently got an RFC published, and as part of that, I was sent by the RFC editor a reference to the IESG statement on inclusive language. And basically, please check through your RFC before it's immutable and can never be changed again, that you've used appropriate language, whatever. Important things. I emailed the IESG and a few mailing lists about this at the time, but I didn't really actually get a response, so I'm asking here directly. The document in question that was referred to is NIST 8366, Guidance for NIST Staff on Using Inclusive Language in Documentary Standards. If you try to access this document, you are presented with a one-page PDF that says it has been withdrawn to comply with Executive Order 14151. AKA, the US government considers that this document is too DEI and cannot be published. I recognize there is a copy of it available on the Internet Archive. I managed to get an authoritative copy from NIST under Freedom of Information legislation, but I still think this isn't a great situation to be in. There is essentially an equivalent document available free of charge from ISO IEC, so not the standard like pay us 500 Swiss francs and we'll give you the document. It's just a PDF on their website. And I would encourage the ISG to perhaps adopt that document instead, given the current political situation. What are your thoughts?
So I think there's two dimensions to your question. You're suggesting that there's a reference in the one place that describes our approach to the process is in an ISG statement. And when it was originally published, the link that it referenced and the document it referenced is no longer currently available.
Correct.
And then the second piece of your suggestion is there's perhaps an alternative reference to be using. So I think to answer kind of the first question, that's a mechanics of accessibility. And you've probably seen there's been a bit of a change in tooling related to kind of statements. And in the version history, you can see that we now reference something that that actually dereferences the URL to the web archive. And, so it's self-contained,
which is a fine interim solution. I'm fine with that, but I would like the ISG not to be referencing withdrawn documents on this and actually reference something that is being updated by an organization that is even allowed to care about this now.
Yeah, I think as I recollect in the history, I mean, the charm of why it was referenced was not necessarily the origin. It was really the guidance is provided.
Exactly,
so when we discussed it, the spirit of that guidance and what we have in the web archive is met. The guidance is there. The RFC editor is helping us kind of implement that. So if you have an alternative kind of reference, I mean, it would be very helpful if you could kind of share with us why you think the content of the alternative reference you want is it provides better guidance than the thing that we already referenced.
I have no issue with the content of the current reference. My issue with it is it can't be updated because language changes, society changes, and as that happens, it is useful to update our document on what is considered inclusive language. As it stands, NIST is not allowed to do this. That document has been withdrawn. The version we have is frozen in time. The ISO IEC doesn't have an administration above them saying you can't do this. So when language changes, they will be able to update this document to include the modern standards on inclusive language. So that's why I'd like to see a different document referenced.
Sure. So I'll let other ISG members speak if they want to. I think my initial kind of reaction to that is the guidance we're providing, we think is kind of suitable.
I think it's suitable as well, currently.
Yeah. So I think kind of the question then is where it sounded like your proposal is swap out to something that's also static. And so if what we have is inadequate, we can certainly revise the statement at some point in the future to point to something that's more suitable. But I would think in the absence of being able to identify the insuitability of the current content we have, the swap to yet another static document seems like you're doing a swap and we potentially in the future also have to do another swap if it turns out it's not a good fit.
I mean, I guess
so if you can walk us through that.
If you're more than willing to have the discussion if and when this document needs updating, that is also fine.
Okay.
I'm mostly wanting to make you aware of this, that this is a problem that will probably eventually happen.
I think issue raised. Speaking for the future ISG, we're not sure when that time will come.
Yeah.
I think we are absolutely willing to kind of revisit the suitability of kind of that reference and find an alternative kind of reference. Someone. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks for the question. All right, next in the queue, John.
Hi. I want to stress that what I'm about to mention is not an immediate problem because it's under control, but it's a broader question. Within the last 9 months or so, I've become aware of 2 documents where people have taken an existing RFC with the intention of modifying it, ignored the previous authors completely, put their names at the top, and proceeded. And as I say, we've gotten, I think, those 2 situations under control, but especially with regard to questions like treating each other with respect and making certain that the history of these things is maintained. I'd like to know what the ISG thinks of that practice and whether it's something we should be discouraging as a community.
Thanks, John. And so to summarize, and you'll kind of correct me if I'm replaying it wrong, you're talking about a situation where a document was previously published with a particular kind of author team, and certainly the way we manage the IPR, as long as it stays in the Ietf, it is acceptable for another author to reissue perhaps a BIS or an update to that document, but they put themselves kind of on top of that, and perhaps they did not coordinate with the initial set of authors that produced the base RFC.
Yeah, as I said, I don't want to get involved with whether this is an IPR problem or not. Sure. Right. But the question has to do with coordination with previous authors, recognition of previous authors, listing previous authors if the new changes are a tiny fraction of the documents, and that set of issues.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm not in front of my laptop, I believe there's an ISG statement in the not too distant past around authorship, and the base of the position, I believe, was that if you are in fact updating an existing IETF document with a different author, step 1 in that process is you should try to reach out to kind of said authors and talk through what the future trajectory is of that document and provide that attribution. I think we have a statement, but again, not in front of my laptop.
Yeah, and it also has as the definition of author, someone who has contributed substantial text to the document. So if you're starting from a base document and revising, probably it's appropriate to keep the existing authors and perhaps add to them.
Yeah, and while I found that ISG statement partway through this process, it's a little hard to find, and maybe a point of that statement needs to migrate into the documents on the IETF pages about instruction to authors and things like that.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And you highlight actually two things, John. So first, you highlighted, I think, as I said in the open, we have a lot of statements, and it would be very helpful if we made it clear which ones we think are still in effect. I mean, we are literally actively on that. We have a spreadsheet with things racked and stacked and some feature requests to make the list of active statements, as we're calling them, kind of more evident. And you highlight the other thing that I think may already be done, but we can fix that really quickly. We have the authors wiki, which is a set of pointers kind of pointing out to kind of different guidance to RFCs and other places, in the data tracker and whatnot. And if it's not there, we should make sure that it's there for sure.
Yeah. And, as I started, I want to stress that in the cases we identified, there was some yelling and screaming. It got to get people's attention, but I think those are resolved. I just think it ought to be a little bit more clear than it's been to people who are very experienced members of the community that this is just not how we do things.
Yeah, we're going to work on all those things we said to highlight that guidance a little more clearly. And
okay,
Eric,
thank you very much.
Perfect. And Eric,
okay,
add a little more?
Just quickly to the thing, those are draft. I'm pretty sure that when we arrive in front of the ISG, we'll be running the checks and we will be fixing this. I think all of us agree on this. And the other point, looking at Robert, there is a PR for fixing and displaying the active draft and the non-active draft that is mostly to be released hopefully in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, the problem is that, among other things, previous authors typically have a lot of history about what is there and what is not there and what the contexts were. And we really want to get that history into the system as early as possible, because catching it when the ISG gets the document as a matter of editorial issues is really it's very good as a last resort, and I'm glad it's there, but it's really the wrong time in the string of processing. And I think that's consistent with everything that Roman has said and everything in the earlier statement.
Yeah, late surprise is bad. Concur.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Thanks for the question. Braun.
Hello, Bron Gondwana. I'm this way.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I'm right at the back. I came up to speak to the terminology thing because I was the author on the document that was likely to be adopted before we made that decision to go with the NIST document. I'm really glad we did. I think we don't need to spend too much time on it here. The ISG can find a document with similar values and just run a last call to the IETF community to make sure that the community agrees. I think that's fine. I don't think we should spend much plenary time on it. I did want to respond to John's proposal there. I have a counter argument. I have worked with documents that had 4 authors, 3 of which went completely no contact. It was a freaking nightmare to try and track them down and get their approvals years later, as this document had gone through the process. Once you produce a document and stick it in and it's managed by a working group rather than a personal draft, it belongs to the IETF. Once you publish it as an RFC, your authorship is listed there. If it gets replaced later, you can still follow the links back. The author doesn't have any special rights. I think once a new document comes up to replace something, yes, it's polite to reach out to the authors. I don't think it should be a requirement. The document belongs to the IETF. The work belongs to IETF. If you want to be involved, show up to the working group and contribute there. And then, yeah, it's not a personal right of veto just because you authored a previous document. That's what I had to say.
Ron, I don't want to kick this dead horse and waste any more time here, but that's exactly the discussion I think we need to have. At least the ISG needs to have internally, and we've made the deal as community.
Okay. Thank you for both of those comments. Braun, Jim.
Hi, Jim Fenton. Back to the terminology issue. I'm a little bit concerned about referencing a document that's maintained by some other organization. And in the case of NIST, I guess that was true as well, although typically they don't frequently update the documents. There's enough process involved. But I want to make sure that if we're going to make a fresh decision to reference an outside document, that we understand what their update process is, and to make sure that that process doesn't allow the document to change in a way that makes it less appropriate for our use. One thing about having a static sort of non-maintained document for the time being, until we decide that it doesn't cover some things that we need, is that we aren't subject to an outside influence on the document changing our requirements.
Thanks, Jim. So to summarize, you're saying, hand waving a little bit, if you make a normative reference, you got to pin the version, and you need to be careful if you get it updated, underneath you.
Something like that, or having a non-maintained document is fine until it's no longer until we decide it's no longer suitable for our use, and then at that point we might want to change.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback, Stephen, and thanks for everyone queuing up to the mic I'm now watching.
I could go over there if it helps. Just on the same topic, I didn't quite understand why the answer to Q's question initially wasn't, yeah, we should look at that and we'll do the right thing, because it didn't quite sound like that. And I hope, and as a comment, that I have seen some other organizations scared to make any change in relation to this DEI stuff. I hope we don't go there.
Thank you for that feedback.
I'll be up front.
Thanks, Pete. Come on up.
This is Pete Resnick. With regard to John's comment about credit, there are a couple of layers of this going on, and I want to be clear. It is absolutely appropriate to put folks in the contributor section even if you take them off the masthead, if they have contributed real text. That's the copyright issue and separate. And Bron is spot on that once you give it to the IETF, it's the IETF's to do with what it will. So what we're left with is what I would consider the rudeness issue and politeness. It would be polite to go and check in with folks. But I would ask that we, in that process, yes, that should be done, but Hanlon's razor should be used on the other end of that. Getting wildly distressed about it is not useful. Assume that someone is being an idiot and didn't do the right thing, sometimes in this particular co-author's case twice, when I was reminded once and forgot. It happens. And so I think whatever guidance the IASG gives, let's put it in the form that this is the way we like to behave here, but we don't want to make this into a wild set of requirements on folks. Do the right thing is the way we should put it.
Thanks for that feedback, Pete. Since we've heard a number of kind of speakers talk about the topic in kind of the generality, and I've mentioned a couple times we have the ISG statement, and it appeared that those providing feedback knew about the existence. Probably the most helpful thing would be if there is inadequacy in the ISG statement, and you have kind of specific feedback about maybe where more clarification would be needed or additional refinement. We would welcome that input, and that might help us find the generalized principle in which we can engage on. Okay, so Warren, you dropped from the queue. Is that a mistake?
Warren Kumari. Yeah, I think I contributed a bunch to that original ISG statement.
You did.
And I think it was largely, yes, you're technically allowed because it belongs to the IETF, but you're kind of an asshole if you do that. You should still just credit people who wrote the original document, even if you can't get their permission.
Okay. Thanks. Martin? Yeah. I can see the motion, so I'm tracking the motion, even if I can't see what I'm tracking. Oh.
Hi, yeah, I take, so yeah, absolutely, like, credit people and acknowledgements. I think it's actually, I mean, I was in this position recently where I updated an RFC that was originally by somebody who sadly left us. And I felt it was actually presumptuous to put Sally Floyd's name on whatever drivel I happened to write. I didn't feel comfortable with doing that with something that she never had a chance to review. And so I would actually sort of discourage this behavior. Again, if the author is still reachable, by all means, do the right thing, be polite and contact them. But just kind of honorary putting of people's names at the top of the document, I think, is actively bad. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks for that feedback. What I'm hearing is that we have a lot of situational considerations to make here. And again, I would have the same response. I think we calibrated for that, for some of that, at least in the IHG statement. Maybe we have not calibrated sufficiently. If you think there's tuning we need to provide with guidance against the IHG statement, we welcome that feedback. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Please.
So I'll point out actually that there are two ISG statements on authorship. One is about people you should credit. The other one is that you should never list an author who has not agreed to be an author on that draft. And so I think that's kind of the flip side, that if you are unable to ask them for whatever reason, be they deceased, no longer in the IETF, no longer reachable, whatever, no, don't put their name on your draft, but do acknowledge their contributions.
Okay, so I observe that the queue is drained. I'm going to pause for a second if anyone would like to put themselves in the queue. Murray.
Hello, friends.
Hello, Murray.
Has there been any feedback about how well the extension to Friday is being received? Like, we have all these slots, we're using them, people seem to be filling them. I'm not hearing any sort of bickering out here about it. What have you heard?
probably the most definitive thing we hear is through the community survey that comes after the meeting, and to currently satisfy all the demand for kind of more sessions, we have been needing the Friday afternoon to accommodate the demand. So I think we're going to have a survey out, as we always do, of course, Jay, and that feedback will be part of that. So if you have feelings on it, please provide that for us. Paul?
I have spoken to some people who acknowledge the fact that, for instance, if they're on a second session, that it's totally fair to be on a Friday, even if that's an inconvenience. And so I think there's quite a realization that people put things in perspective, and that the Friday is becoming a normal day.
Okay. One more call. Anyone else want to get in the mic? Okay. Thank you, ISG. Coming to the stage is the Ietf Administrative LLC and board.
So you're going to be on this side. Excellent. Right. So last open mic session for today, I think. Ietf LLC board and executive director. Or not everyone is here, as I said, but maybe start on this end to introduce yourself.
Gonzalo Camarillo. Jay Daly.
Roman Danilio. And I'm still Miriam Kühner, the chair of the board. So mic is open. I see question. I see Ted Hardy. I don't know where you are. Oh, in the other room. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I just wanted to pull something out of the chat, since I think Jay had asked for suggestions for this. We're coming up to a November meeting in Canada, and the soft knit caps, alternatively known as toques or toques or toque, would be a great addition to the IETF store, especially if you could put little protocol logos on them. That would be really cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the suggestion, Ted. Looking forward to everyone wearing them. Anyone else in the queue?
You can see the queue on the right side.
I can see, I thought, oh, wait. Where do I see them? Here.
It's right here.
Oh.
So I'm John.
Oh, yes, please. You probably see better than I do. Please go ahead.
Adrian from China Telecom. I don't know is the right person to ask. We know the next meeting will be held in Canada. So would you like to help us to accelerate the visa applications? Because yes, in last year we have applied the visa about three months ago, but at last they don't issue us. So I think is there any way for the IETF can help us to accelerate or accelerate the visa applications? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think Jay is going to take that.
We sent an email about this about 2 weeks ago. So we are registered with the Canadian government as an event, and we have a special invitation letter as well as our ordinary letter invitation. And we are working with people who provide us our details to supply those to the visa authorities in Canada. And of course, we've opened our registrations much earlier as well. So we expect that this will make things easier than it was for the last meeting.
Yeah, in last year's experience, before the meeting, we have contacted the IETF secretary and also organizers, and there is no any reason to told us why they don't issue the visa to us. We can only cancel the trip at last.
No, I understand. For the last meeting, we were unable to register as an event because they changed the criteria after we had registered under the old way, and we couldn't then register under the new way in time. This way we have now registered, and we do have the special letter. So we expect our visa applications with that special letter to be treated differently.
Okay, thank you.
Q?
Oh, I'm there. Okay. So, hello again. I have once again have questions on the US, unfortunately. I note the 3 previous board minutes that have happened since I last asked this question in Bangkok, and I'm not here to relitigate what was discussed in Bangkok. In the board minutes, it's noted that it was resolved that the meeting in the US will continue. This is still a decision I disagree with. There was also no information in the public minutes on why that decision was taken. It was merely noted that the decision was taken. So I would like to invite the board to explain why they made that decision and what they may do, or rather what would cause them to reverse said decision.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I can elaborate a little bit on it. And I know, I mean, I wasn't in Bangkok in person, but I followed the discussion closely on my screen at home. And believe me, personally, I very much kind of can relate to the concerns that were raised. And I think that applies to many of us on the board. And therefore, we also submitted or, prepared this extra survey that we sent out after the last plenary session, so to gather even more feedback from the community, from those people who weren't in the room, and that was super useful. So thanks for everybody who sent feedback to us after the survey was issued. And as you can well imagine, the feedback was not very uniform, right? It went all over the place, but I understand.
That's the nature of surveys,
right? That's but it was still very useful, and there was a lot of constructive and thoughtful feedback. I mean, but they were really like opinions on we should definitely not go until we should definitely continue going and everything in between. And I also like to thank those people who really sympathize with us. This is a really difficult decision to make for the board and for the LLC, and the people said, well, we trust you to do the right thing. So we took all that feedback and then all the other data points we had, including the costs, previous experience with the venue, the previous meeting evaluation criteria that we had. We also looked at RFC, 9137, the one that did,
I know which one you mean.
Yeah,
I can't
the one
remember
that
the exact
defines
number myself
criteria
either.
for
Yes.
actually considering canceling a meeting or moving a meeting. And we looked at it and we felt that it did not apply. So we decided as a board to continue to support Jay and the team to go on with the planning for the meeting. We will, however, having said this, we will send another mail to the list elaborating this a bit more with some more details and why we didn't think it would apply.
Okay.
Also in response to a question that was actually raised on the list that we haven't responded to yet. So
Okay.
that'll come.
So if there will be a detailed discussion of why that RFC was felt not to apply to this situation later.
To a detail to a certain extent.
Yes. Okay. Well, then I will patiently await that.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything. Nope. Nope. Thanks. Okay, who's next? Tim Chown. Are you actually here or are you there?
I'm up here, yeah. I'm curious as to why or what the justification is for the price of a one-day pass being over half the price of a week-long pass. It seems to be the Ietf doesn't want people coming for one day. Can you explain that if it's within your remit?
Can you say something about that?
Largely because it got too difficult to manage the number of people who wanted 2 one-day passes, one for, say, a Monday and one for a Thursday, because it would then have been cheaper than having the week pass. And it just became a very significant administrative burden to us. And this is the best way of ensuring that doesn't happen.
So it's to deter people from attending for one day. Okay.
No, it's I think we should remember that we are running our meetings at a loss. It is an expensive thing to put on, and we do unfortunately need to have some mechanisms to recover cost. If we get to the situation where people can pay fractionally for each part of their attendance, as well as that being extremely difficult for us to manage, that's also going to lead to much more of a fragmentation of the meeting and potentially significantly lower venue. And I don't think anybody of us particularly want that. So while it might seem, thank you, while it might seem that this is us being harsh, we do have to draw some lines somewhere, and this is one of those.
What you just described could be fixed by only allowing one-day pass, if that's the problem.
We tried, and people found multiple ways to game that.
Okay. I think that's just very unfortunate. But yeah, if that's the way you're going to do it, there's nothing you can do about it. I just think it's harsh, and it precludes people from like me who would have attended for one day from doing so because the cost is prohibitive.
Just to note that we do have remote fee waivers, so if the cost is prohibitive and anybody cannot,
I'm paying to attend remotely, but it costs me twice the week's remote attendance is half the price of going for one day in person.
I understand, but
the way it is.
If the point is that if it's prohibitive, we do have a mechanism that people can come for free. So we are taking care of that and ensuring that people are not prevented from attending.
But only 1/3 of those were granted this year. We saw that a few minutes ago.
What? No, that's not what that meant. They
On site.
For on site, that's we do restrict the number on site, yes, but for remote participation, we'd have.
I'm only talking about on site. That's my complaint about on site attendance. You cannot attend for one day without spending twice what the on-site registration fee is for the whole week. Sorry, over 50% of it.
Well, we can definitely look at, if we can find a better way of dealing with this and, preventing any loopholes. People.
Yeah, there are personal circumstances that can arise that mean you can only really attend for one day, and you want to focus on one day and come and also catch up with some people. But the pricing prohibits that because it's over half the cost of the full week.
Yeah, and understand.
Anyway, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up, Tim. Now we'll look into this.
Thank
Jordi,
you.
I think you're next.
Jordi Palet. Regarding the visas, I want to comment the experience that we got here. I was the one providing the letter of invitation together with Ietf, of course. I got calls from consulates to confirm some data from some registered people. I know that some of these people actually got the visa. I got some emails from people. We were working together with the Secretariat to fix problems with the visas. And my, let's say, final assessment of the situation, fortunately, several of them, I don't know how many right now, but several of them have been fixed. Some of them just 1 or 2 days before the flight, so it was perfect. But my final assessment is that in most of the cases, probably the reason the visa is delayed or denied is because you apply too late, you don't fill all the fields in the forms, or you are not persistent asking even for help in advance to the Secretariat, because sometimes if immediately you get the rejection, you ask for help, it may be solved. For example, I recall we had 2 cases of appeals that succeeded because we participated in that. I took already the time to go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, working with them case by case, and I think it worked. I am not sure if 80% or 50 or 40%, but at least in some cases worked. But my advice will be, you really need to apply 4 or 5 months in advance. And I think that's consistent with the way Ietf now opens the registration much ahead so the people can go for that. So please really, really plan your trip ahead. I know, especially with some big companies, it's not always possible, but that's the way. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jordi, and thanks for your help and for that advice. Yeah. Tobias.
Tobias Siebig, Max Planck Institute for Informatics, speaking for myself. I was wondering, we just heard about the potential swap between 128 and 130 location-wise. And I think it is not North America where the meetings should be in the regular cycle, but basically the America slice. So it could technically also have been in Latin America or Central America. And what I'm wondering is, given the discussion around 127, is the US a considered location for 128?
If you already know the location for 128, is that what you're asking?
I'm asking whether you are considering or are not considering the United States of America as a location for 128.
As far as I'm aware, they are not there. You probably want to answer that. I don't say anything that's secret.
The reason we are considering the swap is because we have a particular venue that we think will be useful. No, it is not in the United States, but that is because we have this specific venue that we think would work very well.
Thank you.
Hi, Rowan May. I wanted to add some feedback on Q's issue. You gave a survey both for China and for the US. I think that for the sake of transparency, I think that you need to say ahead of time, we're going to set a threshold at such and such number, or negotiate with the community ahead of time what that threshold is, because a lot of people felt like the results of the survey that you gave from China would have indicated that we didn't go. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with the Ietf going to China. And I'm an American. And I'm not going to go to China because of personal reasons going to China, but I don't have a problem with Ietf going. However, I'm an American. I will attend in the US, but I don't think that we should have considered the US. And so I think that we should be super transparent about this. And I think that a lot of people feel that that you guys have not been completely open and honest with us. And the only way to undo that is to go for maximum transparency. And that means you're going to tell us how you're going to decide beforehand, and you're going to stick to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want to say something about the threshold, Roman? Because that's nice. That involved JSG, right?
So I want to highlight that the choice on the decision on 125 and 127 are different. The process executed for 125 ran through the venue selection process with multiple community consultations because it was a new place, it was a new city to visit, and that's one process. And because of community ambiguity in adjudicating, that feedback, a new carve-out was created to consult the ISG, which is now part of the permanent process. In the case of San Francisco for IETF 127, that's a pre-existing venue that's been pre-qualified, so a different set of processes exist in the sense that there is not that carve-out for the ISG.
Roman?
Yes.
It is not the same place that it was when that rule was made. And I lived there. It doesn't apply. The rules that say that this is how San Francisco was, they do no longer apply. You can't use that rule anymore.
Okay.
Hi, David Skenazi. I'm also a San Francisco resident. This is a great segue. I want to talk about IETF 127. I can see for process reasons, the ISG doesn't need to be involved in the selection of San Francisco as a venue for IETF 127, and it becomes an LLC matter. So as Q brought this up earlier, Q was there, I was there, a bunch of other people brought this to the LLC board to say, maybe we should reconsider San Francisco because, as Rowan has said, San Francisco is not the same place that it used to be. The LLC decided to keep the meeting in San Francisco, which is absolutely your right. As you mentioned, the emails was light. Your answer was you decided to defer to Jay, which is a reasonable choice. But now I want to ask you, Jay, why are we keeping the meeting in San Francisco? I would like to have an answer for either you or you, but we need to have an answer why these concerns you decided that you would keep the meeting.
I didn't say we just deferred to Jay. I said we looked at all the data points, and I want to stress again that the feedback, and that especially that we sent out the survey in order to gather more feedback, and that we got a lot of diverse opinions on this. And I understand your concerns, but there were also other concerns, for instance, from people who said we'd rather not leave the US and try to come back in. And we also have to take that into account, right? There were also legitimate concerns. And so with all this on the table, that was the decision we had to make. I don't know if you want to add it.
And to be clear, this was not an easy decision. I'm not saying that your job was easy and you just made a wrong choice. You made a very hard decision, which there was no way you could have pleased everyone. But I think you owe it to the community to give us some more information as to why you made that decision. Because just saying we had a survey and we heard from both sides means you get to decide what you want. We want to hear more. This is a very important decision to a lot of us in this room, to a lot of us in the wider community. We want to understand.
Yeah, no, I understand. And what I said earlier also, we're going to send another mail to the list in response to a similar question that was raised on the list that we haven't answered yet, and there will be some more details in there.
Well, hopefully
maybe
that
not the
email's
full,
great.
maybe not the full decision-making process that went on in our head, but there are some criteria in there that we can explain.
Well, I look forward to that email. That'd be great.
I don't know if anyone wants to add anything. Nope. Who else is there? Andrew's disappeared. Braun.
No, I am here.
Oh.
Up here.
Oh, there. Oh, you are. You had not disappeared. Okay.
Yeah, hi. I'm conscious we've spent a lot of time discussing the US for perfectly understandable reasons. There are other countries in the world which have got human rights challenges. Is there a minimum human rights threshold that applies before we consider a country?
On the website, there is a venue selection criteria, and you can look at the matrix, and there you can see the enumerated considerations there.
There is a relatively clear statement about this in BCP 226, and that's what the board has to follow. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I recommend reading that. That's what sets the policy. That's the consensus view of the community on how human rights should be considered.
Thank you.
Braun, I think, is next.
Yeah, Braun Gondwana. I wanted to give a counter voice to the voices who are trying to relitigate a decision that's been made, which is fair enough, but also the decision has been made. I've read the criteria on the website. A decision has to be made at a point in time too. We don't know if the San Andreas fault's going to put San Francisco in the ocean by next year, at which point we definitely have to cancel because there's no hotel to go to. We have to make a decision at a point in time. I believe the decision has been made, and standing here and berating Jay about it is not going to change the decision. I think we have to accept this IETFs I haven't been to for various reasons as well. Some people won't go to this IETF. It's an experiment. We'll see how it went, and decisions were made based on that.
Thanks, Ron. I think there's, what is it? Oh, I saw Leslie, but now it's Mark. Sorry. Oh, you're right.
Hi, I'm here. Mark Nunham. I have a lot of sympathy for the board, but this is why you get the big bucks. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I hope that when that email comes, it's not, the answer isn't, it was a popularity contest, that we had this many votes for that. And I'm seeing you shaking your head, which is good. I hope it's a principled decision. And I hope that the principles include, we need to get the work done. So we need the people there. And I hope the principles include that we are representing a global internet, not just one country or constituency, and we need to be inclusive on that scale. I think if we're following those, yes, it's a hard decision. All I know is there's a lot of geopolitical nonsense going on right now, and so that puts you in a hard position. Next year is interesting because we're going to be visiting 2 of the countries which are kind of involved in the geopolitical nonsense. I may not be able to go to either of those, as I told you in my feedback. So that's going to be fun. What I might suggest is that you think a bit more about how to handle the geopolitical nonsense when it comes up to be responsive to it. because it's pretty clear we're going to have some more of this. We respond to the pandemic pretty flexibly. I think we can respond to other events too as they happen. I know it's expensive and hard, but again, thank you. I know it's hard.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I mean, yeah, go on.
I mean, I think I would echo a little bit of what Jay said. The principles that are guiding us is the community consensus processes in BCP 226. And what we're doing is trying to interpret that community guidance.
And then I guess as a last resort, as you mentioned, the pandemic, maybe can always go online.
Right, and for the pandemic, after that lesson learned, we invented and minted new process.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks. Now it's
I think it's me. All the way up top.
Oh, there you are.
Hi. Yeah, Leslie Daigle. I wanted to observe that what disturbs me, I have many opinions about where we're going, where the IETF is going. I don't know if it's a we thing yet. But the thing that disturbed me most this evening has been the seeming lack of understanding that the world, in fact, has changed, that San Francisco isn't the same San Francisco it was when it was evaluated. And I want to then double down on a little bit of what Mark was saying, that that's the key thing to understand, that we are in a very different geopolitical world than we were even 12 months ago. And I think that you need to understand that we're going to have more turbulence and heartburn over places we never thought would be turbulent or full of heartburn. And so just saying, well, we've got these procedures and we've got these processes and we've already checked that box isn't going to work. It's not going to cut it for meetings like this, and it's not going to help you make the decisions you have to make. So in addition to an explanation of why we're still going to San Francisco, I would really like to see something from you saying how you're evaluating meeting choices in the face of a turbulent world, and how you might consider flexibility on future locations. And I say that in a really neutral fashion, not picking on either of the two famous upcoming cases. I think it's just a reality. And I know that in another context, in another meeting organization that I'm involved in, am stepping through exactly that same process, identifying the conditions under which we would consider canceling a meeting or not going to a particular location. And I never thought we would be saying that about different areas within one country, and we are. So the world has changed. And so I think your documents and processes need to as well.
So Leslie, just to remind you, in case you don't know, but RFC 9137 is that. That was recently written by the community. It's the circumstances under which a meeting is cancelled. And I think it was written at the time when people were considering certainly perhaps not one of the meetings next year, but one other of the meetings next year. So I think it has been understood in terms of that document. And that is a community-owned document. So if the community wants to look at that again, that is the community's right, of course.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks. Ted? Ted?
I want to start out by saying that when I raised some of these issues on the email list, I acknowledged that you have a hard job. And I want to continue by acknowledging that you have a hard job. You have to balance a number of different issues here, monetary, solvency, the number of people who can attend, and the number of people who can attend is composed of a number of different things, not just whether the usual coterie can come, but whether we remain open to new participants. I look forward to your analysis. I have had hallway conversations with Roman and other members of the IAOC this week, sort of asking when is that coming, and I will wait patiently with Q and others. But I think one thing that would be valuable to include it, since you haven't already set it out, is an analysis of what we risk when we are going to places which specifically exclude people based on immutable characteristics or other elements of diversity that are critical to people's sense of self. I believe that we have gone through a community process started by the discussion around IETF 100, in which we basically said, the reason we meet is to have technical conversations, and if it is not a comfortable place to have a vacation, that's okay. If you can't bring your family, that's okay, because those aren't critical things for you to have a technical conversation and contribute. And as an outcome to the IETF process, I wasn't particularly happy with that, but it made sense and it was the community consensus. I think we're in a different situation now where people's core sense of self is causing them to be the target of discrimination by state actors, and that they cannot come and make technical contributions if they cannot come and be themselves. We understand that it is possible to contribute remotely. I did it myself for Thailand for visa reasons. But if we are sending the message that we aren't concerned with that, we will be turning away potential future contributors who don't understand the long and somewhat complicated history here. There was a discussion in the chat that asked for a reassertion of the IETF's commitment to diversity and inclusion. And I believe that one way you might consider balancing decisions like this is by making sure that you and the ISG and the other leadership of the community continue to represent those to the outside world in ways that are bold and clear, and make sure that this particular decision, as hard as it is and as difficult perhaps to explain, is not representative of our long-term commitment to making sure that the IETF is open to everyone and that the internet is for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ted. Move on.
Yes, hi, Dan Bogdanovich. So when I'm hearing all these conversations again and again, I agree with them, and Ted made a very good summary. But we are also have to evaluate the companies that are sponsoring our work. And many of the companies are cutting on the budgets, and one of the first things that goes is the various conference standards body participation. And they evaluate which meetings are easy to get to and which meetings are harder to get to. And trying to put all this interest into a position that is acceptable to everyone is a very hard equation to put together that will make everyone happy with the end result. And our biggest sponsors
We lost you. Shall we move on and maybe you'll come back for your final comments? Oh, Andre, yes, please go ahead.
This got me thinking, because I do have people on my team who are not from the traditional, EU, UK, US, Canada places, and they do have a hard time getting even Schengen visas. So maybe part of the anxiety we are feeling right now with the current US situation is that we haven't experienced this before, but people outside of the traditional, groups that go to IETF experience this every time they go to, Schengen or US. So I don't have a solution to this, but I'm just saying that we should think about this in an introspective, that where this fear from going to US comes, and whether there are groups of people who we are excluding just because they feel this every day, and every time they think of going to IETF. Because we don't, because it's the travel is easy for me at least, and now it's not.
Yeah, thanks for making that point, Andre. Barry, why don't you go and...
This is Barry Lieba. I wanted to add something to what Ted said, because he talked about people being able to be themselves. And I want to stress that it's more than that. I mean, it is that. But people coming into the US now put themselves at a risk of masked federal agents taking them to a cell somewhere with no access to family or legal advice. And that's a very serious thing to consider, you know, whether you want to risk that. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if Dan is back. Otherwise, Tobias, once more.
So Tobias Wiebich, Max Planck Institute for Informatics, again speaking for myself, and what I would like to add to the previous speaker. For me personally, when judging 125 and 127, I might disagree or find myself unable to attend either. But what I have to say about 127 is an issue of predictability in measures, in application of policy measures, in stability of policy measures. And that is, I think, something apart from the severity of impact we have in a location, we should consider. How stable and how reliable are these assurances and situations which we can get, which we can expect when applying for visas, when trying to enter the country for that specific host organization or host country. Thank you.
Martin?
Yes, Martin Duke. I just want to say that there's not like one set of choices you can make that is perfectly inclusive and another set of choices you make that is non-inclusive or less inclusive. There are many people in this community that work in the United States and are not United States citizens, and they, for very good reasons, are extremely reluctant to leave and then re-enter the United States. Which is not to say we should have all our meetings in the United States. That would be ridiculous. But it's not a situation where if we just simply exclude the U.S., then everyone is fine. There are a lot of other rules in this. There's no perfect venue that is perfectly accepting to everyone in the world. And one of the principles that 111 is meant to embody is the idea of sharing the pain. And I certainly would not support every single North American meeting being in the United States, but I think that if conditions continue for a long, long time, we should periodically meet in the United States. And it doesn't mean that some people will not be able to attend. But again, I think we should share the pain. Thank you.
Right. Dan, are you back?
I am back. The fun of remote attendance beside the time zones. It's sometimes, you know, the connectivity. Yeah, so we have to, it was just the previous speaker was, we have to share the pain, and the pain can be for various different reasons. Some of them are, you know, because of the geopolitical situation. Some of them can be just the current financial situation of the company. And for the IETF, LLC, and the administration to be able to predict all of those and take all of those into the account on a longer term basis, it's nearly impossible. So as long as we are doing the best we as a community can, and the IETF administration does the same thing, and we stick to some of our principles, you know, we just have to adjust as we go forward.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm glad you were able to to conclude your comments. So I don't see anyone else in the queue. I don't see anyone running to the mics. So done? We're done? What? Why? No, Rüdiger. Where are you?
Yes.
Oh, there.
Sorry, I cannot refrain from joining that discussion after the last remarks from Martin. Our policies say that we want to meet in certain regions. That is different from guaranteeing that every participant will have a meeting in his country. And even if that country is large. So kind of actually saying a little bit more, I think that indeed any not yet scheduled meeting for the next 3.5 years should, if it is scheduled for North America, should not be in the US. And we remember that under the situation that we had 8 and 7.5 years ago, we rescheduled and avoided the US under circumstances that were far less severe than what we are observing right now.
Done? Oh yeah. Thanks, Rudy. I couldn't see if you've left the microphone or not. Thanks. All right. I think that was the last comment. Going once, going twice. All right. Enjoy your evening. Thanks for all the feedback.
No.
I'm going to give it to Pete.